All right, all right. Peace to the family out there. Shouts to the family. All right, we about to get started. We got an important, amazing show coming up. Y'all see who I'm with. Before we get started, make sure you hit the like button. Tell your friends and family. We got an important show coming on tonight. And let's get to a quick commercial before we get started, family.
Sometimes I wake up in the morning feeling stressed. Sometimes I wake up feeling like I never slept. Sometimes I don't wanna wake up cause I'm depressed. But today when I woke up I felt blessed. Yes, I'm thankful I could breathe. Thankful for the breath, thankful for the heart beating in my chest. Superman-esque, I fell in love with life, not afraid of death. Fell in love with life, fell in love with sex. I'm a sinner, I confess. I love my gold, melanated flesh. It absorbs, it protects like a bulletproof vest. I kill all my demons and then I ask who's next. I'm the son of Osiris, I'm coming for the suit test. Suplex, God is blood, God is great. I'm thankful for the food on my plate. I just ate mashed potatoes and steak. Victory is sweet, come get a taste. The flavor in your ear is Big Mac with the bass. Been broke, can't break, got money in the bank. Every day someone dies, someone's born. Get a cake, set a date, get a suit, get a tie, get a date. God is always on time, never late. Celebrate, get in shape, meditate, levitate, elevate, men destroy, men create, real women menstruate. And the sound I make emanates my light, and the song I sing celebrates my life. Celebrate your life, celebrate your life. Celebrate today, celebrate tonight. Celebrate your life, celebrate your life. Everything was dark, God invented light. Everybody celebrate your life, celebrate your life. Celebrate today, celebrate tonight. Accepted all my wrongs, celebrate the right. When I die, celebrate my death, see what heaven's got. I feel glorious, victorious. The metal dangle on my...
All right, celebrate your life.
That was nice. Yeah.
You ain't know I do music, Professor. I do music production. I did that beat.
Really?
Yeah, I did that beat.
That was nice. It's apropos for what we're going to talk about tonight.
Excellent, excellent. Without further ado, y'all see what it is. Y'all see who I got, the living legend with me right now. None other than Professor James Small, my brother, my elder. Welcome back. Good to have you back here, man.
Thank you, Brother Rich. It's good to be back. For the last 4 months, I've been on a journey, but I'm back.
Yeah, listen, I heard about it. Let me just tell the people right now. I know that the elder didn't tell me to do this, but I want to do it because I know the elder. Somebody had told me you was going through something, and I just life been moving so fast. I didn't get a chance to call you. What I want to do right now is I want the people to show you some love. I'm gonna put his Cash App. The elder's been sick for the past couple of months, and I want y'all to show him some love. He's been out of work, and I just want y'all to show the elder some love on the Cash App. You know, whatever, you don't have to, but if you can, definitely support the elder. I'm gonna make it my mission during the show to send you a nice donation, elder. Cash App.
You always do. I always appreciate you, brother.
Tell the people what else you've been up to while I put this Cash App up here, Professor.
Yeah, for years I've spoken about the fact that I've had a prostate issue. So for about 35 to 38 years, I've been dealing with a prostate that should be the size of a walnut. Mine was bigger than a grapefruit. So it interfered with all of the function in my lower extremities for 35 years. I had to go through some terrible stuff, from hemorrhaging, from wearing diapers, from wearing catheters. I've given lectures. People didn't know I had a catheter on in the bag strapped to my leg. I mean, for years, going through that, because I figured this is what I got to do to survive. And I didn't, did not want to not do my work, right? So I said, okay, this is what I got to do. This is the name of the game. And I did not want to be butchered. The only treatment they had was to do some very invasive surgery, and that always left people debilitated. So I said, I'm going to do the herbal thing. I'm going to stick with my doctors. I worked with them, but I worked with the herbalists as well, especially in Africa and here. And that got me through 35 years. But I came back from Africa in August, and the world just crashed, just hemorrhaging at home and in and out the emergency room every day, and finally in the hospital for 3 weeks, and then out of the hospital, then back in for surgery, and then 4 weeks recovering from that. And what they did is a new procedure called embolism catheterization. They actually go in through your wrists.
Wow.
With these electrodes and go all the way down through your body to your groin, and they cut off the flow. They actually catheterize some of the main blood vessels that feed the prostate and force it to shrink. You don't want to kill it. You want to make it shrink because you still want it to function as a prostate should function. And so they actually shrunk it. It shrunk itself. It realized, okay, with this big thing, I need 10 pounds of oxygen, but they cut this down to 4. If I'm going to live, I have to cut down my needs to 4. So it shrunk itself. It fought me for about a week. And they told me, they said, look, this thing's going to fight back. And it fought back for about a week. I mean, you feeling all kind of crazy stuff. And then you can feel the contraction. And your body starts functioning normal. But after nearly 40 years, I was able to have a normal urination, a normal going to the bathroom. And I felt odd, like, I'm normal. I feel good. And I didn't know what feeling good on a daily basis was. Even though I handle it now, because very few people knew how bad it was, even though I spoke about it. And I plan to do a show with somebody, maybe come on your platform and just talk to young people about this prostate situation. Because mine started in my early 40s. You know, it doesn't just hit you when you get 60 and 70s. I'm 78 now. But when this started, I was in my 40s and didn't know what it was. And the doctors didn't know what it was because men were dying before the age 70. So there was no money in prostate. Now we're living into the 80s and 90s. Now there's money, right? So they're doing the research and stuff because there's money in prostates now. And it's weird. And I had a chance to take advantage of that new procedure. And it worked well. So far, I'm in the 7th week. No side effects whatsoever. The only thing with the soreness, when you're going through the procedure, they can't put you under. You have to be fully awake.
Right.
You're going to be suffering some pain, and you're going to hear all the noise. And they're looking at a TV screen and manipulating these little things down in your body.
Yeah.
And you hear the doctor cussing, God, dang, I missed it.
Wow.
and you're going like, oh, my God. And one time they said, well, we may have to send Mr. Small home and let him heal for a while and bring him back next month. That's when I got heavy on the ancestors and said, Mama, please let them find this thing and fix it now. Yeah. And those ancestors stepped in there within 2 seconds. The guy said, I got it. Right. You know, it took another hour and a half for them to finish. But it was quite an experience dealing with the ancestors, really learning what I've been trying to teach for years and see that nearly all of it was real. When I was laying in a hospital room to have my ancestors come and visit me, first it spooked me. I'm not going to lie. First, I didn't want to believe it, even though I'm yatting, talking it all the time. And then when I realized there's somebody in here with me and they're trying to talk to me, and I just relaxed and let it be. And I told them I want to go home. And the doctor says, I had tubes running all up, brother. I won't even describe the tubes going to me. And then the stuff going through the needles. And they told me, well, you can't go home and I can't remove them. But the night after I had the big visitation from the ancestors, homies, Dr. Rowland, the next 107 class, so you're going home today. I said, you just told me last night you couldn't remove none of the stuff. So I'm taking all the stuff out of you and you're going home. No explanation. Except I knew I had that conversation with the big boys and the big girls. And they said, we're going to take care of you. And people were praying all around the world and around the country. Prayer is real. I don't care what religion you're using to do it. Okay. I learned that one. Thoughts. You can send thoughts. Thoughts ain't nothing but energy. And I could feel the energy coming from my people. I could feel the libation being poured by my people in Africa who were calling and said, Prophet, we're pouring libation for you. And I felt it. I knew all these things was happening. And I fought because they gave me the strength to fight back. Because I thought I was like going to do the exit piece, right? If it had gotten bad after 3 weeks in the hospital, your body start giving in, especially when you don't know quite what's wrong with you and why they can't fix it. They're giving you medicine every day, and some of it is narcotics, and your body's not your body no more. So you have to get through all of that. And not because of me, I got through it because of my people, because of the love, because of the prayers, because of the good thoughts, because of the ancestors, and the thing we're going to talk about, that thing called God.
Can't wait to have this conversation with you tonight, Elder. I'm not going to keep you too long. I want you to get your rest. Before I put this Cash App I want to make sure I got the right name, because people be sending it to the scammers. The scammers have a name that's real similar to yours,
I
but it's not
swear
yours.
they do. They got me a
So
few times,
yeah,
and I,
they a couple
you
of people I got a fast group, and a couple of people got caught up and they sending it to the wrong people. Then they end
know,
up getting mad at me. So let me make sure I got the right cash app. I'm gonna spell it out. DRJAMESSMALL.
yes.
All right,
That's
just want to make sure. I don't need the scammers getting all the professors' donations. My brother has been through a lot, and I want to make sure my brother's good. All right, so make sure you support the brother. With
and
that being
you,
said,
you
yeah,
always do. I tell people the only guy that ever really take care of me is Brother Rich. He
oh,
makes sure that that's
always.
always done from the beginning.
I take care of my elders. You, Dr.
Yeah,
Valentine, my
you
elders,
do.
I make sure y'all good. Sister
You do.
Myra, I make sure y'all good. So it's an honor. I'm
So you're
blessed.
very respected. The people respect
Yeah,
the way you handle your podcast.
indeed.
You're
It's an
quite
honor.
respected.
It's an honor. Professor, let's get started. This is a very common question, $1 million question you hear a lot of people ask. A lot of people with melanated skin, very frustrated, very confused as to why God will allow Black people to go through what they go through, considering what we know about slavery, consider what we see on the news every day, considering our own individual experience in this life, whether it's the school system, the jail system, the education system, the workforce. It's like everywhere we go, the darker you are, you're always at the bottom. It always seems like there's some type of conspiracy against the darker skinned people. And it's like,
Right.
it's just tough. It could get tough psychologically on you. It could get real tough being a melanated person. Then on top of that, people are telling you, oh, you got children to take care of. You got a wife to take care of. You're a man. If you're a woman, you got to cook for your family. You got to be strong every day, despite everything that a group of people has gone through in the last 500, 600 years. And people want to know, why would God allow this to happen? I've heard different reasons. The Moors, I've heard, in the Bible, they say Black people are cursed, the curse of Ham. So I've heard different things, but I haven't heard your perspective, Professor James Small. It's a question that we want to know. It seems like, when the hell is it going to end? Professor, if we got all this magic and power, and like you said, the ancestors, why did this have to happen to our people, my brother?
First of all, I'm not informed, nor am I instructed by the Torah, by the Bible, or the Quran. My conclusions, my analysis is not based on anything from the Abrahamic confusion and illusion.
That's
Get
what
it
you call
straight.
it.
Confusions and illusions.
All
The
right.
reason people are having problem trying to figure out why God let this happen, because they're looking for God every place except in the mirror. Say that again. The reason people are having problems trying to figure out why God let this happen, because they're looking for God everywhere except where they should look for God, in the mirror. There isn't a single African culture, nor is it expressed in a single African language. And even those who are talking about Kemet and Medu Neter, they're expressing what they're looking at very wrongly. The Africans never saw God as a people, person, place, or thing. The Africans, in all of their language, saw God as the totality of everything, including you. Let me say that again. The Africans saw God as the totality of everything that exists, including you. And if you don't carry out your role as the God of your kingdom, which is yourself, and you're looking for some God in the sky or in the ground or in the wood or someplace else, you're going to be in a situation Black people find themselves in now. You're chasing some illusion that's dead and on a cross, or you're chasing some illusion that's a mystery that makes you pray a certain amount of time a day, or you're chasing some illusion that you say brought you some laws that has never worked, even for yourself. Because when I read your documents, you're all committing genocide against whole people, and so your God told you to kill all these people and take their lands, and so you can't say you believe in all of that when the very gods you saying you believe in makes the people who brought it to you rich by killing you, because now you become the best killer of yourself. So that's not the God I'm talking about. Matter of fact, the word God does not encompass, it doesn't have the capacity to describe what the African means when they talk about Jianyami, Inyankampon, Oludumare. They're talking about the universe and everything in it as being the divine, including you.
Mhm.
And so if Africans want to understand why we're in our situation, because you don't have the courage to be the God you were created to be. You want to be a slave. You want to be a servant. You want to be Abdul. You want to be the servant of Jesus. You want to submit to Yahweh. Well, I don't submit to a damn one of them. I don't submit to nothing.
Mm.
I am the universe. You are the universe. We are all just expressions of aspect of the divine totality. And our responsibility is to free ourselves and fight for ourselves, not wait for some mystery God or some mystery potion or some black magic to do anything. We lost the war with the Europeans, which didn't start 500 years ago. That's when the African American experience began. We
Mhm.
were in this war with the Europeans when the Hittites, when the Hyksos first invaded our land in Northeast Africa. And then the Hittites followed with their invasions twice. Then the Assyrians followed with their invasions twice. And we're now talking almost 1,000 years of enemy taking our land. And then you have the Romans and the Greeks, and then the Persians coming in twice. And then you have the Romans coming into North Africa and creating the mulattoes that we now call Moors for the most part, because the history they're talking about is not a black history. It is a mixed race history. Then you got the Visigoths, the Germans invade North Africa and drive the Romans out. And then the mixed breed Arabs come in and mix with the black folks who call themselves Moors and drive the Visigoths, the Germans, into Spain and the Romans back into Italy. So we're fighting wars for about 3,000 plus years before we really got our behinds whipped. And we got whipped because we felt become the enemy is the best way to defeat the enemy. So we converted wholesale in North Africa to Islam. And in the East, the Aksum Empire under, what's the brother's name? King Anus, whatever. It'll come to me. Became a Christian. Ethiopia didn't start Christianity. They borrowed a Christianity that was started by some mixed race and black folks in Turkey in what became the Byzantine Empire. And they took that and spun it and made what they've got. And in partnership with the Coptic Church, which was the blacks in Egypt, breaking away from the Romans and Constantine and trying to keep their culture intact. These religions were first not churches like we know them today. They were the everyday culture of the people. But when you get conquered by another group that dominates your society, you have to hide to express yourself. So churches grew out of people having to be themselves in secret. And then you're hanging on to belief because you're no longer in control of your daily reality. Because somebody with a sword that just kicked your butt is in control. And the way you handle it, we made a fundamental mistake. Let's become them and defeat them the way we did them. But you can never be a better killer than the killer. You can never be a better thief than the thief. You can be a good thief and a good killer, and we've proven that. We kill ourselves better than almost anybody. We steal from ourselves better than anybody, from one end of Africa to the Caribbean to the US, wherever we find ourselves in Europe. But what about becoming the African again? How did the African make a decision? Who is in partnership with me? Who can I trust? Who do I build friendship with? Who do I build alliance with? What must their understanding, not belief, but their knowledge-based understanding of how this world works? If you look at the Yoruba religion, it's not about no believing in one God. Many of us who have become Yoruba or practice the religion of Ifa, in the methodology used by the Yoruba, because there's no Yoruba religion, there's a Yoruba people. They practice an understanding of the sacred science that they call Ifa, which means the wisdom of the universe. Okay? And so what is that body of wisdom? It tells you how to have a relationship with one another based on humanity and empathy. Not how to rob and steal and carry on envy and jealousy and hatred and violence in order to seek power. And so because we got beat up physically, we think all we have to do now is become physically better at beating people up than the people who beat us up. And wonder why nothing is changing. Because you become your own worst enemy. Africans never worship a god, a thing, or a person. Africans realized and participated in the fullness of the universe itself. Remember, the planet Earth is just another object in the universe. We're spinning in outer space like everybody else. We're just as alien as any other thing on any other planet. Okay? We're just part of this greater universe. Everything in the universe affects us, and we affects everything there. Well, what we're calling African religions, which I prefer to call African sacred science, is an understanding of that relationship and the kind of communal, collective, cooperative cohesion it will allow one to have when you practice it based on the knowledge of it, so that you can't be conquered. All of Africa was never conquered. There are people in Africa that didn't even know the slave trade took place until recent years. They didn't even know it happened. Okay? Because they were able to defend themselves. There were wars. We fought wars in Africa against the European, but the European came out of a culture of domination, destruction, and death. It's a killing machine. Study the history of Europe going back before the Greeks and the Romans. And you won't find 10 years in the last 3,000 years when they weren't fighting a war with one another or multiple wars. That is their culture, a culture of wars, domination, destruction, and death. You think you're going to outdo them? We tried. We should have retreated back to being ourselves. And that's what we need to do now. We used to sing a song in the 60s. It says, "Who will survive America? Very few very few crackers, no ends at all. Or very few ends, no crackers at all." All right? The only people that would survive would be those of us who was willing to be African enough to behave in a manner that nature became your friend and your partner, and you became a friend and partner of nature. That the cosmology became your friend and your partner, and you became a friend and partner of the cosmology through an understanding and a gaining of the knowledge that allow you to develop the communal, collective, cooperative relationship, both internally and externally, that will allow for that to happen. You're a part of God. People say, "Oh, God created everything." No. I came from between the legs of a black woman out of her vagina as a result of my father's penis having a relationship with her womb via her vagina. So if God creates, then who was my mama and daddy? Were they not creating me? Isn't that how human beings get created? So if that's how human being gets created, then mama and daddy is a part of God that carry out creation. Does that make logical sense to anybody? It doesn't make sense without me saying it. But we'd rather have an illusion saying God created. Yeah, God created, if you want to use the word God, that's an English word to describe that totality, but that is not what you're describing. When we say God, we're talking about an individual, a man or an entity or something up there that makes decisions for the good and decisions against the bad. That's not how nature works. That's not how the universe works. That's not how nothing in cosmology works. Everything is cause and effects, positive and negative, fighting for balance and harmony, action and reaction. And the Africans understood that. So if you look in their language, any Bantu language, you'll see their word for people, person, place, or thing. All of them have their word for God either as a suffix or prefix. which is to say that God is in everything and everything is in God. It's a oneness, but you must be conscious of that oneness. And you must be able to practice based on the knowledge and understanding, not an attack on nature, but having a complementary partnership with nature and everything in it. You know, you don't pollute the river. You know, you don't pollute the earth. You don't pollute the air. All of those are anti-antagonistic relationships towards your brother and your sister. Nature is your brother and your sister. And so how do we see that when we study African culture? Culture is not the clothing we wear. It's not the hairdo. Culture is the concepts, ideas, and principles that you're trying to teach with the hairdo and with the clothes and with the dance and with the music and with the drama. You're trying to teach concepts, ideas, and principles about how the universe works, how the human body works, how the ecology works, how the environment works, and how it all works in harmony. And so that's why you create metaphor and allegory. That's why you carve statues like Shango behind me being the king. There's no person named Shango. That wood is nothing. That's wood. I could chop that shit up and carve another one. What I'm trying to say with that carving is the symbol of the king talks about having courage, talks about getting rid of the ego, talk about destroying arrogance, talk about destroying envy, talks about destroying jealousy, so that you raise yourself principally above to be an example for others to follow. So that's why they use the symbol of the one thing in the environment that is supposed to be representative of the totality for that environment. But we tried to take our Christian form consciousness and then express African reality through that Christian Judeo-Islamic consciousness. It doesn't work. People say, yo, in Africa, the brothers and sisters are Muslims. Yeah, I was a Muslim. I was a Haji. I went to Mecca. I don't think you were born yet, Brother Rich. You know, I was an imam. My name is Al-Hajj Amin Ashahid, the faithful witness. I noticed I don't have no Abdullah now. I was no faithful slave of the witness. I wasn't the faithful servant of the witness. I was the faithful witness.
Right.
But that wasn't that approach to life that the Arab have brought forth to the world, and the Turks, it's really the Turks. The Arab may have initiated, but the Turks took the system from them back in the 8th century. Okay? We call them all Arabs, but they're not. So you had Kurds and Turks and Eastern European have created this religion called Islam, have written all these hadith and interpreted what it's supposed to be like based on their barbarian, anti-human, anti-nature, domination, destruction, and death culture coming out of Europe and southwestern Asia. So stop playing. If people want to know truth, then study. And if you've been studying any of these religions, you can't come to any other conclusion than what I've just said. Yes, you can use any of them to do good. We use Christianity to do good and help us across a lot of difficult times here in North America. We use Islam in West Africa. We use it to help us through some very, very difficult times. But some of the biggest slave traders in West Africa was the Muslim community. You know, let's not miss that. We fought jihads, wars against one another to conquer and take control and convert. And those who didn't, we sold them to the enemy. And now we want to pretend that there's some special God because we pray a certain way, we wear a kufi a certain way, and cut our beard and shave it a certain way, that we are somehow different and better than the people whose children we sold as prisoners of war to the most barbaric bunch of garbage Europe could produce. Know your history will erase the mystery. Know your history will erase the mystery. Let's come back to the initial question of God so people can feel, because they're like, oh, Brother Small, attacking our religion. We will have to beat him up. I am attacking your religion. You can practice any religion you want. But if the result is no better than what you've been getting, you better come and talk to me.
Right.
Listen, Malcolm said, if ain't did no more for you than it has done to this point, you don't need it anyway. Stop playing. Stop playing. You know, we look and we see something doesn't work, but because the enemy does it, because it's a copy of what the enemy does, we do it until we can't do it no more, even though it's not working at all. It's not working at all. Got the beautiful literature that they've written down. Well, you can't write down the wisdom of the universe, fool. What book is big enough for that? You can't write down the story of creation. What book is big enough for that? Stop lying. Stop playing. Stop being children to white people's lack of understanding, his lack of capacity to comprehend reality. It doesn't even have the courage to care whether it destroys itself. So it destroys everything else in its path. Domination, destruction, and death. In the African mind that's organized around African genesis and authenticity, God is every and all things at once, including me and you. It's not a person. It's not an entity. It's not something up in the sky or down in the ground or made up of wood. God is everything, from the bumblebee to the fly, from the wood to the human, from the cloud to the gases, from the water to elements in space we don't know. All of it makes up that thing that you call the divine. And you're a part of it intricately, and you're made up of all the things that make up all the things. In Africa have sacred science systems, which we erroneously call African religions, but they are sacred science systems, which some call the wisdom schools. But the Africans never call their system a wisdom school. They call it their sacred science, their understanding of cosmology, ecology, and the human being's role in it. And so, who was supposed to protect you from the lynchman except you? He come to kill you, kill him.
Indeed.
Not being afraid to kill him, and you're gonna blame God because you were a coward.
Indeed. Well, Professor, what I want to know also is, and that was a thorough breakdown, and I definitely appreciate it. But I know a lot of people are curious, Professor. Before we took on the Abrahamic religions, or whatever you call them, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, a lot of people say we were doing something that caused us to fall. Once we fell, we got indoctrinated with those religions. What were we doing? Were we doing something, Professor?
Fall from where?
Grace.
What
Fall
the hell
from,
is grace? What is grace?
what I'm trying to say is, we're at the
I know
bottom
what
right
you're
now,
trying to
Professor.
say.
We don't
Don't
even have
go
a
away
black
from me.
community. We don't own any of this. So I'm talking about when we own shit, Professor. When we had our own.
We still own it. Do you want to fight to keep it? We still own everything in the ground in Africa. But you want to stand by and let somebody else come and steal it and talk about God didn't stop them? You deserve losing it.
What were we practicing when that happened?
You are God. We were practicing knowing that we were God having a human experience.
And we still
we
fell.
allowed ourselves to be frightened and intimidated of death by this brute. Once you became a coward and not willing to die for what was yours, you have a right to be imprisoned. You have a right to be enslaved.
We became cowards, you say.
Dessalines told us, freedom or death. And when Dessalines lived and articulated freedom or death, Haiti was winning the revolution. When they murdered Dessalines and went back to the Catholic bull, Haiti lost the revolution. You know, Malcolm X told you, the price of freedom is death. And he showed you how you had to be willing to die like he was willing to die. But you're not willing to die like Malcolm, so you don't deserve the freedom.
Plain and simple, huh?
Plain and simple. Water is wet.
That was a simple answer, Professor. That was a simple answer, Professor.
But it's deeper in that we have to be able not to want what the murderer wants. Now, if you want to be like the murderer, but you ain't as good a murderer as he is, you can't blame God for that. You want to be like the murderer. You want to be Frank Lucas.
Mhm.
You murder some black folks with dope, make me $5 million. I want to be Bumpy Johnson.
Bumpy
You know what I'm
Johnson.
saying? I want to be Nicky Barnes.
Yeah.
Ask them what it was like at the end of the day. I know a couple of them. It wasn't all that the movie said it was. I can guarantee you that.
Right.
So let's come to now. Here we are in Black America,
Mm-hmm.
about 60 million strong. White folks say we 45 and they miss about 15%. But okay, I'm saying 60, and I think I'm still being modest because I'm
Right.
not talking about my African Latino brothers, right? Who would make
Mm-hmm.
us about 90 million if they were to wake up to the fact that a language don't determine your race, right? Nobody
Mm-hmm.
called me British. I'm not considered to be Anglo. You know what I'm saying? I speak English. Okay,
Right.
they see me as an African, but if you speak Spanish, you be black as midnight. You're no longer an African. So that kind of ignorance is what we have to fight against. Know the truth, and this is an old dictum, long before any of the Abrahamic religion, going back beyond Kemet, and the truth will set you free. Know and understand your reality. When you die, and they put you in that casket, or they do like we did Brother Sekou Sunday out of the day, we buried him in a wooden box in the ground. When Sekou rots, his body will break down into the 400 plus minerals that makes his body up, and it will dissipate back into the earth where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
We are dirt at the end of the day because all the vegetables we eat is made out of dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think about it now, because we don't think about that. We put a little carrot seed in the ground, and then the dirt creates this carrot, right? We put a tomato seed in the ground, and the dirt creates this tomato. So the dirt becomes the tomato. We don't even ask, how does dirt become a tomato? We just gobble down the tomato.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The energy that's in that tomato is the reason we gobble down the dirt that makes up the tomato, because we want the energy that's in the tomato to energize our body so we can keep being animated. Right. So our bodies, like me now, here I'm 78, I'm talking, I'm moving, I can lift things, I do my exercise every day, I be curling my little weights and stuff, you know what I'm saying? Trying to just keep this machine going. Well, I'm matter and I'm energy. We accept that the science that we think we know today says neither can be destroyed. So why are we even thinking about death? Because of fear and ignorance. When someone cuts you off just one generation from being instructed and informed by your culture, you're in a state of ignorance towards who you are. And the only chance you have to put in any fighting back is to try to become who they are. And if their total way of life is making sure you never become who you should be, then you now become the master of keeping you from becoming who you should be. I hope that was made simple enough. And then back to God. God ain't a person, place, or thing. God is everything, and I'm a part of that everything. You, Brother Rich, is a part of that everything. When my mother and father gave birth to me, they had sex. They must have had a good old time. I ain't even embarrassing them. They must have enjoyed themselves.
Had a
Right?
good time, huh?
They had a good time. And at the end of that good time, Daddy shared all of what was him with Mommy, who shared of all of what was her, and all of what was him and her became me. I am they. So they're not dead because I'm them going forward. When I die, those 8 children I have already, they're already me. They're me going forward. The 20-something grandkids I got, they're me going forward. I am eternal.
Right. Indeed.
We are the universe. We function the way the universe functions. That's the way of life of the African being. Not some ego, arrogant, envy, jealous, murderer, thief, marauder, seeking power and pleasure, as we've learned from the incomplete man, the depreciated being. Okay? There's some things in nature that does not have the capacity to comprehend divinity. So they make themselves divine. They turn God into man, a man. And then they kill the man that they turned God into. They said, well, we kill him, but he's going to rise again and come back. Then they'll be ready to kill him again with a new story twist.
A new story twist. Yeah.
And then the other story, most people don't understand. When you read the Quran is made up of the Old Testament, New Testament, and the last revelations coming from the prophet. They're all the same religion at different times in history. And what it was designed for was to civilize the barbarian that invaded Northeast Africa. We gave them that body of knowledge. But we didn't give them everything. We gave them enough because we thought that it would civilize them and stop this genocide that we had been a couple of thousand years involved in. But it didn't. He took what we gave them and expand his ability to commit genocide on the world and took over the whole globe. So we must take responsibility for that. But now we need to go back and find what we left behind. Because you can't tell me that we can go to church every Sunday. The prison knows millions or more black people than Christians. They're Christians. 1/4 of them become out Muslims.
Indeed. You know, real quick, Professor. When it comes to, you're talking about freedom and this concept of freedom, and
oh yeah, I like that word.
Yeah, one of the things that get brought up with freedom, two good things that get brought up when it comes to getting your freedom is economics. Gets the conversation economics. The brother Rock used to always talk about economics.
Yeah, I love Brother Rock. That was my man.
Another thing that gets brought up is spirituality. What I want to ask you, those is two good things to bring up when it comes to freedom. What about developing a language separate from the English language? How much of
we already have languages separate from the English language. They're not all spoken all over Africa. We don't need to develop a new language.
You don't think we need to develop a new? You just
no,
think
we need to learn We need to learn any number of our languages that's available to be learned. Starting from Swahili, people say, well, Swahili have some Arabic relationship. Then dump Swahili. Go to the Akan. Go to the Yoruba. Go to the Shona. Go to the Inabeli. Go to the Zulu. Go to the Khoisan. There we got a bunch of languages. We don't need a new language.
Well, not a new language.
It would be an advantage for every African child, especially in the Western Hemisphere, to learn an African language, because you will see the world quite differently. You will see the world quite differently. You would stop saying God, and in your brain is a man somewhere up in the sky.
Right.
It's supposed to be helping you out because you're righteous. And a damn one of us can even live up to the standard of what any of those religions call righteous. Not even me.
Right.
And I'm a good dude. So let's stop playing that game that the European has put you to play. While he robs you blind, turn you into all kinds of freak in order to let you become millionaires. Cat, old brother Cat, whatever his name, he wasn't lying. He's telling the comedian. He's telling the truth. People know they got turned out and all kinds of stuff for the money. And they're coming up trying to be the B-boy. Cut the stuff. Let's deal with truth. Indeed. Most of our people, if you look at what happened in America, from the time we got here, we were fighting. Okay. Prince Hall was formed in 1780 something. The AME Church was formed in 1770 something, Prince Hall. AME Church was born in the same time. The Black Baptist Church was born around that same time in the 1770s, 1780s. Meaning from the time we got on the soil, we were fighting for ways to remain ourselves. But when someone takes away your institutional framework, takes away your ability to use your language to communicate, you've got to then use your understanding of reality to take his institutions and recreate them so that his institutions become the sanctuary for you as you try to secretly maintain within you your institutions. And so we use the Black church like it was a nuclear bomb. And then we forgot what the hell we were doing in the late 50s and early 60s and try to
Mm-hmm.
imitate white Christians. The
Mm-hmm.
black Christians of the 1800s and the 19th century were not imitating white Christians.
Mm-hmm.
Out of that church came our politics, our sociology, our education. It was the sanctuary in which the African world recreated itself behind the walls of a Christian facade.
Mm-hmm.
But not having any access generation after generation after generation to an African way of creating institutional frameworks, we settled for what we had. But there was always those people coming along all through the centuries that was telling us, let's go back to Africa. Let's use an African way. Voodoo never died. Voodoo is an African word for the totality of the universe. It means the essence of God in things. Comes out of the Fawn language and the area language. You know, we never lost our way. We just was blocked from using our institution, and we were forced to then transform the European institution to serve the aspirations of the African community. We name everything African, the African Free Lodge, the African, this is 1700, the African Methodist Church, the African Methodist Episcopal Church, Free African Society, the African Baptist Church. We didn't wait for Adam Clayton Powell, Jesse Jackson to use that word African. We were using those words in the 1700s and 1800s to name all of our organizations. We knew who we were, but we were not allowed by law and by tyranny to practice who we were using methodologies that came out of our history. Now we can do it because we've fought enough. We've kicked down enough walls and enough doors. We can go back to Africa, and we have gone back to Africa, and many of us have relearned how our ancestors saw reality. We have relearned how our ancestors saw themselves in cosmology and ecology. And we are coming back and trying to teach one another. Don't tell me about some dead God and some God you pray to every day, but the only thing that he can give to you, can't even get you a pass out of prison. It just lets you stay out of trouble in prison. I'm not into none of that. Okay. And come telling me that I'm the chosen. And I like some of us, any brother and sister feel that you were chosen and you were given land, get on El Al and go to the land. Go take it back. What you bother me for? Okay. Stop playing. It sounds good when you rat-tat-tat and all this off. The Bible said this. But the Bible is a fairy tale document that's only a few seconds old in terms of time. Doesn't represent anything significant in terms of how the world was formed or designed. Most of it is plagiarized African knockoffs, philosophically.
Indeed, indeed. Professor, I want to get to a couple of questions from the people. I want to monitor your health and make sure you get your rest, Professor. So I want to get to a couple of questions before we get out here from. I want to give them the opportunity. They in the chat arguing and shit, man. These people crazy in the chat.
Don't argue. Love ye one another that ye may be loved. Isn't that what your religion teaches y'all?
Fighting like cats and dogs. But let me put your cash chat back. Hold up, Professor. Make sure you support the elder. He does amazing work, has done amazing work in our community. I want to make sure you support the brother. He recently has gone through a health situation where the brother hasn't worked for a couple of months, and I just want to make sure the family takes care of our elders while they're alive instead of waiting for them to transition and then saying, oh man, I wish I could have did this, I wish I could have did that, and talk good about him. Instead of talking good about him, let's do good by him now instead of talking good about him like how we usually do, and give him his flowers while he's alive. So his cash app is on the screen, $ Dr. James Small. All right, let's get to a couple of questions, Professor.
Yes, sir.
Question. All right. Do you think that a part of our plight is turning our backs on the great black mother? Is that one of the reasons why we fell, Professor?
But I don't believe we've fallen.
Well, you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
I know what you mean. That was one of the reasons why we think we've fallen. And see, if you think you've fallen, then you've fallen, even though you're standing upright.
I hear you. You got
Okay. Now the great black mother is a symbol, right? When the universe decided, let's look at it now, the totality of everything. I mean, we don't know the beginning or the end of the universe because there can't be a beginning or an end, right? Because if there's a beginning, something was there before to cause it to begin, right? So the concept beginning is throw it out, doesn't exist. That means the concept ending doesn't exist. Throw those two things out. Your alpha and omega, throw it in the garbage. It has no place in logic or in common sense. Then we come to the black mother. If one was to be scientific and logical and reasonable and even theological, when the universe or what you wish you were calling God decided to be human, it decided to be a black woman.
Mm-hmm.
And she creates everything else through her vagina and her relationship with the thing we call God itself. It can't create a man first because he ain't gonna bring no babies through his rectum.
Mm-hmm.
So let's be real. So when the universe, when God, when whatever you want to describe it, when it decided to be human, to have that aspect of itself. See, I put it simply, we are God having a human experience.
Mm-hmm.
We are an aspect of the divine essence having this experience. The first aspect of the divine essence having the human experience had to have been a black woman. And she
Mm-hmm.
gave birth to the rest of the human being. And if you trace yourself back, if every human being in the world today began to walk backwards in their gene pool, they'll all end up at one woman. And it would be a black woman. And if that one woman that we all end up in implodes, it would be an aspect of God having an experience to be human again. I hope that makes sense. I try to make
Oh
it.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. And so the metaphor of the black mother, you know, because even if you go back to the oldest religious book we know is the pyramid text.
Mm-hmm.
And I've read it, recited it before that first chapter on the Genesis chapter, where Amun says, I create myself out of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I cause existence to exist so that existing might exist. And when I realized that I existed, Ma'at was at my side.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first manifestation of the black mother he talks about. Then he said, I spat out Shu. Then I coughed up Tefnut. Shu is the masculine. Tefnut is the feminine. And they created Geb. Geb is the masculine, the earth, and Nut. And Nut is the feminine. And they created Asar. Asar is the masculine, and Aset is the feminine. And they created Nephthys. Nephthys is the feminine, and Set is the masculine. Everything in nature, according to our ancestors, in the oldest written document we have, talks about this. So why am I going to listen to the Abrahamic books when I got a book 40, 50,000 years older than them telling me what's up? But it gets deeper than that. In the end, Amun says, after creating Ptah and Ra and all of these things, Amun says, having created everything that my heart desired, I then expanded in it. Meaning I, the divine creating God, is in everything. That's what our earliest book, that book, if I'm going to be informed and instructed by a book, I'm going to be informed and instructed by my mother and father's book, not by their murderous books.
Right, right, right.
And then one more thing Amun says before that dissertation ends. Now he done said, I created myself out of myself, right? And then I created all these things, right? Earth, sky, air, da, da, da. And Ma'at, the feminine principle, and truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, balance was at my side, and I recognized myself to even be. But he closes the dissertation by saying, and I came from my mother, Noon, the Black Waters.
Mm.
Now that's my Bible. 30, 40,000 years older than the mother folks' Bible. And
Right.
once you study my Bible, you see that everything in their Bible was copied from my Bible and plagiarized and recast in another culture at another time. So I don't need to go to a counterfeit. when I can go to the original? And then that's not enough, because even when you write things down, you've created a limitation.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you can't write down all that is.
Right.
You can't write down all that has happened.
Right.
Impossible.
Right.
And that's why the Africans maintain the oral
Oral
tradition,
tradition. Right.
which
Right.
has no boundaries on it. It simply requires memory and practice, right? And monitoring. That's where secret societies come in. So if I was a priest and my job was to recite and remember 1,000 years of history, that's all I have to perfect. Your job as another next priest is to recite and remember the next 1,000 years. And the next priest's job is to recite and remember the next 1,000 years. And we can do this in recitation or in drum beats, drum rhythms, or in a
Mm-hmm.
flute rhythm. And believe me, the ears of the people can understand the vibrations of the horn. The ears of the people can understand the vibration of the drum, just like you're speaking their language. I've seen it in Twi. I've seen it in Yoruba. But the mystery is giving up the fear of death. Nobody's going to get out of this world without shedding this shell.
Uh-huh.
All the body, nobody. No matter how long you get to live, you can hit 100, become a centurion, and get up there in the 110s and 20s, but you're still going to make the exit out of this cocoon. But the you is not the body. You live in this body because it's necessary. This is like your space uniform, you know,
Right.
to live
Right.
in
Right.
this environment. But you're going to have to shed this and get another suit. Maybe your grandchild or your great-grandchild. The Yorubas call that alowo. We
Uh-huh.
go and we come. And we go and come from the family we were always born into.
Mm.
You know, the Ebi.
Let me get to
So
this next.
we
Get
need
that.
to
Yeah.
we need to spend a little time studying our own tradition. There's enough literature out here now. For us to pretend we can't find knowledge on Africa, on an African sacred science, we're not telling the truth. But if you want to be in the house of the devil and you want to behave like the devil, then your consequence would be that of the consequences that befall the devil. You can't complain about nothing. If you made a choice, but you're not making a real choice, because ignorance deny you what I know. And so my job is to tell you that ignorance is the greatest enemy you have. Ignorance of who your mother and father was before they were put on the slave ship. Ignorance of who your mother and father was before the Turkish and Arab invasion with the Islam into North Africa and East Africa. Ignorance that existed before the Dutch and the Portuguese and the Spanish and the British and the French and the Germans and the Belgians came. And yet there are people in Africa to this day that don't even know we've had this experience, because they've never had this experience. And they live in the woods, in the rural areas of Africa. I remember going to one village and they had
Yeah.
these beautiful houses with no windows on them.
Right. Wow.
They had little slits in the walls.
Yeah.
And they had windows on the roof. The roof open, and they hung out on the roof. And the
Wow.
gate was like, the wall was like 8 to 10 feet tall, but the gate was 2 feet tall.
Right. Right. Right.
So if you had to get in the yard, you had to creep. And that means your hands can go wacko. You know what I'm saying? You
Wow.
weren't getting in that yard because you had to crawl in.
Yeah.
And that's how they protected themselves against the slave catchers.
Mm.
Whole villages built like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Wow. Let's get to two more
People left
questions.
because they didn't know where their people went. Yes, sir. I'm sorry it takes so long.
Two more questions, Professor. Two more questions. This individual, Naomi, I hope I'm Naomi Holtzman wants to know, what's the elder's thoughts on reincarnation? Is it possible to get off the wheel of reincarnation?
Who would want to get off the wheel? See, you're bringing assumptions from other people's religious tradition. In the Eastern tradition, especially in India and China, some of those areas, they have this concept of reincarnation, and they come back as all kinds of other things. In the African tradition, reincarnation, you only come back as a human, and you only come back in the family that you were originally manifest in, that you never come out of that Ibi. The
Shit.
first person in your family born a million some years ago, that same line keeps repeating itself.
Wow.
And that's the line you will constantly come back in to further yourself.
Mm.
I'm my great, 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 great grandfather. I'm him and grandmother. I'm not something separate from them. I'm them going forward. They were me in a time before this time. I am the same them in this time. And I've taken that aspect of me and created my children, who is me going forward in the next time. So reincarnation, the way we think of it in the West, that you die, then you come back as a bumblebee, a butterfly, or even another human, that's not how the Africans see it. The African sees you as a constant repetition of yourself. So when a baby is born in a Yoruba household, an Akan household, all the elders and the priests and everybody is called to come. And the first 3 days are devoted to one thing. Who is this child?
Mm.
Is it a new body of energy that has arrived? Or
Mm-hmm.
is it an old energy? And if it is, who is it? And only then they determine what the name is going to be. And that takes another 4 days to make sure they got it right. And then they bring the baby out and introduce it to the public. And that's called the outdooring.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we take it seriously that there's no such thing as death. Life never ends. It transforms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I said earlier, when I eat a tomato, a carrot, a collard greens, a piece of kale, what am I eating? I'm eating the dirt, the minerals that they absorb to create it themselves so that they can be ingested by me to create myself.
Right.
When I eat the beef ate the grass, right?
Mm.
That's all he eats. That big old thing eats grass. He's a vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
But the minerals that he gets from that grass, I then extract from him in the form of a certain type of protein, right? Which energize me to keep this organism going.
Mm-hmm.
It's all one thing. I am the cow. I am the collard greens. I'm the kale. I'm the tomato. Take away the kale, the tomato, the collard greens, the beans, the greens, the rice. I don't exist. It's all one thing.
No,
The different
definitely,
manifestations of expressions.
definitely, definitely, Professor.
Mm.
This, and I want to end it with this question. This is a question that I guess got everybody debating, and I know you've talked about this before, but the sister right here, the herbal goddess, wants to know: can you ask Professor Small about us being indigenous to this land? It's a hot topic and on the internet these days, my
Yeah,
brother.
because it's hot topic because people are still ashamed of being Africans. Let me just put that right up front, right out there. We're indigenous to all lands.
Hmm.
If you go to Australia and we're there,
Everywhere,
you
huh?
go to New Zealand and we're there, you go
Right.
to India and we're there, New Caledonia and we're there, you go to Vietnam and we're there, you go to Cambodia and we're there. Why the hell wouldn't we be in North America? What's such a big deal about being in North America? Except that there's so many Africans who feel if I say I was indigenous to this land, I can denounce being African because I don't have the courage to be that again. I don't have the courage to know that or know how to become that again. So tell me, show me any proof of your indigenous to this land. And don't tell me about a couple of little people writing a couple little notes. Because I know I have family who was here before Columbus. I used to attend their graves when I was children. We buried in mounds, big hills, and
Hmm.
not holes. Most people can't say that. They don't have the experience I have growing up in the woods side of the river in Acadia.
Hmm. Hmm.
I grew up in an African village, in a native African village. And there's a place just off of my village called Sandy Island that's in the middle of two rivers, the Walkman PD River, that a bunch of my families are from. But we're everywhere. What is the big deal that we would be from America? Were we not in the Caribbean in every island? So what's the big deal? What is the point of that discussion? The point of that discussion is an African denunciation in the consciousness of those who are too cowardice to realize if you claim Africa, then you got to claim the war that Africa must fight to be free. Freedom is to be shackled to your identity. People don't want to be shackled to an identity that would require them to fight a revolution.
Mm.
And so you should know the name of Sekou Odinga. We buried him last week. I knew Sekou Odinga when he was 18 years old. I knew Sekou Odinga when he was a member of Malcolm X OAAU. I knew Sekou Odinga when he started the Harlem chapter of the Black Panther Party. I knew Sekou Odinga when he founded the Black Liberation Army. I knew Sekou Odinga when he broke Assata Shakur out of prison. I knew Sekou Odinga when they took him away in the 1980s, and he spent 33 years in prison on our behalf. 26 of those 32 years he spent in solitary confinement, and they couldn't break him because he knew he was an African man. He was the universe. We are the world. I'm not afraid to be the world. I'll be the light-skinned world too, and the brown-skinned world too. Y'all come for me too. Give me India back. Give me New Caledonia back. I want Australia. Give me the Mauritius Island. And yes, give me North America. But because some of us was here before the slave ships come, I'm going to denounce that part of me that came on the slave ship. What is wrong with y'all? We are both. We are everything. We are the world. We are indigenous to every land in the world. And I know I was reading something the other day with some of the Native American brothers were laughing at this and saying we're trying to take the identity. You're an Asian, a 10,000-year-old Johnny come lately. We already built our civilization and they had already fallen before you crossed the Bering Strait. Please, get real. But let's study our history. Let's start brother, what's his name? Imhotep, who passed away. David, his literature. Study Van Sertima's literature. Study the Jewish guy, what's his name, who did a good job. Read Columbus's notes and his diary. Read Columbus's brother's diary. Read Verrazano diaries. And there's a lot of other literature, but don't come up and just say stuff. Find out, how are you indigenous? When did you come here? How did you get here? Where did you come from? You didn't grow up out of the ground. And there's some trying to say that this is the genesis of humanity and not Africa. Stop being silly. This place was under ice for most of its existence. Are you the caveman? And maybe. But we live in the Southern Hemisphere. And part of America, North America, is in the Southern Hemisphere. All of the Caribbean, Central, South America is in the Southern Hemisphere. It's quicker to get from a boat. Me and you can take a rowboat from Ghana and get to the Caribbean in 2 weeks. Today.
Right.
Now, Columbus and them got lost out there fooling around. But with a good motorboat, there's some people willing to pay. Some guys just did it a couple of times 2 years ago. Africans know how to come and go. We've been coming and going all over the world for hundreds of thousands of years. So it's no big deal that we're indigenous to North America. And the reason we're making a big deal, because we're having an argument with the most recent arrivals from Africa. Stop having that foolish argument and try to find out what y'all need to learn from one another so we can survive this world.
Hey, man, I definitely appreciate you coming on the show. Once again, I want to share Professor's Cash App. Make sure you support the elder if you can. $, Dr. James.
One thing. If they think I'm too hard, I'm kind of sick now. Y'all got to see what I'm not sick.
Man, indeed.
But we got to be free. Freedom is to be shackled to your identity. My identity is Africa, whether I'm in Vietnam, India, North America, South America for the last 5,000 years, I'm still African. And if you got a problem with that word, throw that out. Let's pick another word that the people will approve of. But most of the people seem to have accepted that word. So let's use it. If it don't work for you, let's get with the consensus to create another one. But no individual saying, I'm going to change my name to hoop do. No, the consensus in the African world is the word Africa.
Indeed. You got any contact info, Professor? Any email or anything?
Go to my Facebook page, Professor Small African World. That's why I post everything that I do and try to get as much of my stuff out there on ProfessorSmallAfricanWorld.com.
Professor, as always, I appreciate you for coming on here.
I appreciate you, Brother Rich. I appreciate you for
you're such an inspiration, my brother. You're going so strong you said you're 76, my brother?
No, 78. Proud of 78 too. I'm trying to hit 80. Then I'll say, oh wow, I made 80. I'm trying to hit the 90.
That's amazing.
I'm trying to give the people everything I learn,
Yeah.
I share it with you.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing I've learned is how much I haven't learned at all and how much I don't know
Mm.
and how broken I am. I talk to you and I'm just as broken as you are, but I'm
Mm.
trying to fix me. All right. I'm
Yeah.
fractured, I'm fragmented, I'm cracked. And sometimes I slide back, but I'm constantly trying to fix me. And the
Yeah.
only thing I know that can fix me is the womb of my mother. And the womb of my mother is a Black African woman
Mm.
and a Black African culture and a Black African spiritual system. That's the only thing that can fix me.
Indeed.
Then I'll be
Indeed.
free.
Indeed, Professor. Always an honor. I love the
Yeah,
statue behind you. The statue, it's been powerful. I,
yeah,
I got
those
my
are
own, I got
people.
my own statue too, Professor. You can't see it.
I see it.
Yeah, yeah, I got so
I
we
love
both
it. And that's
indeed.
our culture. We're not gonna let nobody take our culture from India or Asia. See,
Right.
we've allowed people to take our stuff,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm gonna recommend at least one book
Uh-huh. What
because
book?
you showed me your statue. It's
What
called
book?
the Threefold Lotus Sutra.
Hold up, Professor. Let me write this down right now. Hold up now. Don't go nowhere. Hold up. Let me write this down. You said the three
Fold,
fold
Fold,
lotus
Lotus Sutra.
sutra.
When you read it, you think you're reading Yoruba.
Yeah?
It's three of the oldest sutras that Buddha ever brought forward.
I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna buy it tonight. It's on Amazon.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna buy it tonight, Professor. Next time I talk to you, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna send you a picture of the book. I'm gonna send you a
All
picture.
right. Yeah.
But,
Okay. It's a
but
hell of a book. When you
yeah.
read that, you're like, damn.
Mm,
Because it talks about just what we're talking about now. And it breaks it down in little pieces.
yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Looking forward to it. Thank you once again, Professor. Thanks to
Thank
everybody in
you,
the
brother.
chat
Peace and
for coming
blessings.
through tonight. We'll
Thanks,
get out
brothers
here.
and sisters, for letting me mess with y'all a little bit, but I want you to think past the box. Matter of fact,
Indeed.
burn the box down and just walk free. You know,
Right. Indeed.
burn
Indeed.
all the boxes down. Don't even be no Yoruba, don't even African religion. Africa ain't got no religion. We have a sacred science understanding of our relationship to the rest of the universe.
Powerful. Thank you,
That's what we
family.
do.
We're getting out of here.
Okay,
I'm
brother.
gonna call you tomorrow, Professor.
Yes, sir.
All
Peace and
right.
blessings.
Peace.